Hello class and welcome to week 6 of child abuse and neglect. So this lecture will serve the purpose as to, of course, reviewing your weekly materials. I will review your assignment that you will have due this Sunday, as well as go over the couple of the articles that you have for the readings. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I hope you guys really enjoyed your kind of semi-break last week without having too many assignments due. But this week you do have an assignment, and I will discuss that. So let's jump right in. So the overview of this week, of course, you'll be reading chapters 8 and 9 in the Psychotherapy of Abused and Neglected Children book, as well as you will review a few ESTs, which are empirically supported treatment. I do want to mention, I know sometimes I use acronyms or things that you may not understand, so please feel free to email me. I had a couple of you email me about some of the acronyms I used last week. Please feel free. I know sometimes I can get caught up in the jargon and forget that I am teaching you guys. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about any of the work or material that you're learning in the lecture videos, as well as the material in the textbook. I am happily eager to respond to you guys. So yeah, moving on. So of course the articles will focus on trauma-focused CBT, which is what is mainly used with when it comes to abuse with children. They also have play therapy and things like that. But of course, trauma-focused addresses the trauma that the child may have experienced. You'll also read articles addressing religious and spiritual issues when looking in terms of trauma-focused CBT. So this is important too if you are going into practice that will include a spiritual component. So that's something that you should be able to look at and analyze and reflect on how that may impact you in your future practice. Let's see what else. So let's move on. Of course, that's what you guys will be reading. So this week you also have a discussion report post per usual. I know this is quite frequent, but I really do feel like you guys learn a lot from the discussion reports, and you also provide some great information. And your responses to your classmates are really insightful and thoughtful. So I really appreciate your work that you do in a discussion board post. I think it reflects heavily on your work throughout the course as well. So great job on that. And per usual, you write 300 words or more on this post in responding to two of your classmates. So let's jump right into the readings. So this week you'll have, of course, trauma-focused in CBT and religion. This is an interesting article, as I previously mentioned, how this may correspond to your work in whether you're going into hospital setting, private practice, any avenue like that, or if you just want it for personal information as well, if you aren't going into any of those practices. This is an important issue to address whenever concerns of with any modality or therapy being issued, because as you know, some of your clients may not be spiritual or religious, so it's important to take that into account, and for those that are, how you will respond well, or not well, but how you can respond to them in terms of these therapies. So yeah, this is just a article about that. I don't want to spend too much time because of course you guys will be reading over it, but it does give you an overview of what trauma-focused CBT is. And I think that's important to note that, so you know exactly what it is. It's similar to CBT, but it's more, of course, trauma-focused. And it is geared towards focusing on that trauma that a child may have experienced. So it talks about psychoeducation and parenting skills. So psychoeducation is very big within the world of psychology, because a lot of the time, say for instance, you are working in the hospital setting in a IOP program, which is an intensive outpatient unit. So you're not focusing on clients in the inpatient, but they are coming in to receive treatment throughout the day and then going home at night, and they're not physically staying in the hospital. Psychoeducation is very big within, IOP programs, because it teaches you about, the illness that you may have, the abuse that you may experience, the therapy that you are experiencing, so you are able to take those tools that you're learning within the program and apply them and understand how effective they can be for you. So specifically for CBT, a psychoeducation component would be discussing what CBT means, how effective journaling may be, and just analyzing and exploring those components within the therapy model for the client, so they can have that information and understand it, and they can understand for themselves, and also can educate other people on these things. So psychoeducation, like I said before, is a big component, because if you don't know exactly what you're learning, what you're doing, it's hard to be effective and apply that within your life. It's like trying to, I guess I'll use a simple example. Say, for instance, if you want to learn how to ride a bike, if you don't understand how a bike works, and how you get it to move, how are you going to learn how to ride the bike? And that's kind of a simple analogy, but if that makes sense, how can you fully practice, CBT and the techniques, and in order to become self-sufficient on your own as a client, without fully understanding what that means? So I know that was a quick tangent caveat off of what I should be talking about, but I really want to focus on that because it is an important component in terms of therapy. And of course, parenting skills. We talked a lot about how attachment styles and parenting skills impact a child throughout this course. So this is also a component to trauma focus. And here it outlines 4 specific strategies or protocols that emphasize, of course, the treatment and behavioral competence or parenting skill competence. So there's praise, there's selective attention, there's timeout, and there's contingency reinforcement programs. So these are the 4 strategies that TFCBT outlines in order to basically improve behavior, things like that, and focus on those areas of where the child may be struggling in terms of maybe abuse or in general. Relaxation. Of course, with CBT, there's always a big relaxation piece, and I think this is important for children. Relaxation and mindfulness, meditation, things like that are also very effective. Maybe boring to the child, but I also feel like just taking that little bit of time, maybe that's incorporating, small prayer before bed or whatever that may look like in that component, in that realm. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about for this article. As I mentioned, you guys will read that through, and I think it's a really great article for you guys to address and focus. And I don't want to click on this one because I feel like it's very similar, except for without the spirituality component. But I do want to look at it and see how long it is. So, of course, this one is trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapy for addressing the mental health of sexually abused children. So this one is also important. So I believe the first one was more along the lines of just abuse and neglect. This one touches on the sexual component. So, of course, it addresses the effects of sexual abuse and trauma. So common areas of focus are, of course, maladaptive and unhelpful beliefs and attributions related to specifically sexual abuse. These components are very strong. So, of course, the child may feel a sense of guilt for their role in abuse, anger at the parents for not knowing about the abuse, feelings of powerlessness, a sense that they are in some way damaged goods, and a fear that people will treat them differently because of abuse. And I think these are very common. As I mentioned before, I work within the child abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence realm. So these are definitely common concerns and areas of thought for children. So when the main focus of trauma-focused CBT is addressing these areas, acknowledging that guilt, you know, allowing them to feel that they aren't powerless, they're not damaged goods, and also just rehoning on these, you know, because the fears that they may have surrounding the abuse, to help them to be fully capable and self-sustainable on their own. Is definitely a difficult part of the process when it comes to trauma-focused CBT. Of course, and they might incorporate acting out behaviors, mental health disorders, including depression. And they also may have some symptoms of PTSD from the abuse they may have experienced. So let's see. So as I mentioned, I don't want to harp too much on this because I also agree this was a really great article to read. It has some great information for you guys. So please look at this article as well. Okay, and attachment and discussion. And sorry, I was reading too fast. Dissociation. So of course we talked about attachment in terms of attachment to family members, but also dissociation is very big in sexually abused children. A lot of times children will, and what dissociation means is removing themselves from the situation. So a lot of times an abuse victim may say they were kind of like watching themselves out of their body. So it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. So they may dissociate and, you know, make it seem or appear that really didn't happen to them. So these might be some behaviors to look for. And again, this is another great article for you guys to read. This is a lot longer and more wordier than the other ones. I think the other ones will be definitely more interesting to read in terms of how, you know, the fonting and things like that. But I also feel like this is a great article for you guys to look at in terms of attachment and dissociation and when it comes to abuse. So yeah, let's jump right into the child abuse treatment plan. So I did want to say a quick caveat. Okay, so you'll have a vignette for this assignment. So of course you'll create a treatment plan based on this vignette right here of Mary. And you'll offer, of course, a empirically, sometimes it's so hard for me to say that word, I don't know why, empirically validated approach for helping a child who has recently been sexually abused. You will need to include 6 sections: a problem section, a problem definition, a goal development, objective construction, intervention creation, and a diagnosis determination as outlined by the Complete Adult Psychotherapy Treatment Planner in your textbook. So in the treatment plan write-up, of course, the format should be an APA format. Let me see if I can pull up. Of course, in order to receive full credit, you always include all the 6 components. But let me see if there is a I want to say not, just so you have like a rubric. Oh yes, it does have a rubric. Great. So this is exactly what I want to show you guys, because a couple of you had a few questions on last paper on what exactly, how they're grading, things like that. But this is exactly where I grade from. Quite frankly, I grade not as harsh as these 2 characteristics. So if you do very well, say for instance in the treatment plan, so this says the student creates a treatment plan offering empirically validated approach for helping Mary, who has been sexually abused. The student includes 6 sessions. So say for instance, if you include all this information and you're just missing a little bit of information from the diagnosis determination, I'm not going to fully dock you all these points, but I will dock maybe 4 or 5 points from that. So you're not receiving too much of points off. But as I mentioned before, this is exactly where I grade from. And if you guys, each component is addressed and talked about, you guys will do great on this assignment. And also there's a faith integration portion of this as well. So of course you'll thoughtfully and appropriately integrate faith into the treatment plan, and utilize scripture support. So as I mentioned before, with the trauma-focused CBT, that could be easily, just praying with the child before they go to bed. That is a faith integration piece. Writing down their favorite Bible scripture, that's an integration piece. Using different, whether that's, practicing some sort of spiritual or religious in their mind portion, that could be integrated into that as well. And of course, APA format and resources as well. I'm trying to see, let me go back and see if there's a specific amount of sources. So students will integrate Christian faith with treatment as well as APA formative reference page at the end. Okay, so there's no minimum number of references required, but be sure to adequately support your treatment plan within academic sources. So you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as many as you want for this paper. But just be sure that you are touching on these components, each and every one of these components, to receive full credit. And I'll go ahead and read the vignette for you. So Mary is a 6-year-old female, Hispanic female, who was brought in for therapy, but by her parents due to recently being sexually molested by an 18-year-old neighbor. Immediately following the incident, Mary reluctantly told her mother, who reported what happened to the police. In turn, the neighbor was arrested and currently awaits an arraignment hearing. Mary lives in a 2-parent home with a 12-year-old brother. Her parents describe their relationship with Mary as good and state that they are happily married. Since the incident, which occurred about a month ago, Mary has been having nightmares almost every night involving a theme of being punished and refuses to go to school, church, or outside to play. She has also been having trouble eating, finds it difficult to fall asleep at night, and frequently complains about stomach achiness. When you greet her in the waiting room, she appears highly anxious and won't make eye contact with or acknowledge you. Her parents present you with a drawing she made at church a week prior of an angry God with a lightning bolt aimed at Mary. So, through that lens, you will create your treatment plan of course, the problem. What is the problem? What is the client coming in to be seen about? Problem definition. So what does that mean? What is the definition of what she is experiencing? Goal development. So what are the main goals that you want to focus on with Mary? That can be, we typically start with about 3 to 5 goals. So that just gives you a ballpark of how many goals I am looking for. So objective construction. So you guys will provide your take on what type of objective construction you may give, or your thought process behind this. So of course your intervention creation. So your interventions would be including what type of treatment plan you would incorporate, whether that's of course I believe it's in following TFCBT, whether that's journaling, whether that's thought processing, whatever that may be and whatever that may look like for you, and as well as diagnosis determination. So what is a diagnosis that you will give Mary? And as I mentioned before, there's no right and wrong answer about diagnosis, but just to give us an idea of what you think the issue may be. So as I mentioned before, I've also include Christian faith component, as well as I would like to see a little bit how, how you would handle this on your own if you have your own clients. So it'll be an interesting assignment to review. And I really look forward to reading over these and getting your feedback and your thoughts, and just talking with you guys over these. So with that being said, I think that's all I pretty much want to talk to you about. As always, I'll go ahead and look into the next week and see what you guys have for week 7. So week 7 is a slow week as well. You can start your capstones on week 7. I think that's a big part of why there's a huge break, but just a reminder that capstones are due on day 5 of week 8. So if you want to go and get started on your capstone, that would be a great idea. As always, I hope you guys have a great week, and please feel free to reach out to me via email with any questions, comments, or concerns. I will be happy to discuss that with you guys, and have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.